And we're live. Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back. Day three, guys. Day three, our final day, Friday. Welcome to the launch of Speak Suicide Prevention. This is such an amazing endeavor and an amazing initiative, and I am just so honored to be a part of it. We have some wonderful conversation that's going to happen tonight, and we are focused. We are ready to just unpack some really good stuff. Our last 2 days, if you've missed them, they are still up on our page. Please go back and watch them because we've had some really profoundly awesome conversations. And I do not believe that tonight will disappoint either. So, welcome, welcome. Gratitude for all of you coming and tuning in. My name is Kathleen Meredith. I am a writer and a speaker and a positivity igniter. But today I have the distinct pleasure of being your host for our final night of celebrating the launch of Speak Suicide Prevention. We have launched a gorgeous website that we want you to go and check out, speaksuicideprevention.org. We are using the hashtag for tonight. It's time to speak. Hashtag it's time to speak. Also, if you go to our site, you will see our mailing list where you can sign up and get inspiration, support, resources, and all of those lovely things in your inbox. So, without any further ado, I am going to go ahead and introduce our lovely panel of people. With us again is Miss Rachel Chenoa, who is the dope mind who dreamed, edified, and manifested this wonderful project. She is our CEO, our director, and the visionary behind this project. So welcome back, Rachel.
Thank you so much for that great introduction. How are you this evening?
I am good. I am gully. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm so excited. This is day 3 of something I couldn't even have imagined doing a few years ago. And I am so happy to manifest this space and this organization. So let's get to it tonight.
Let's get to it. And we have also with us the powerful, limitless, wonderful Reverend Bridget Kelso Anthony, who is one of my oldest and dearest friends in New York. She is so talented and so amazing, and we are honored to have her come in and speak on suicide through the lens of social justice and the arts as therapy. Reverend Bridget, welcome. How are you?
I'm great. What a great introduction. Wow. I hope I live up to it.
Oh, you've been living up to it, woman. You have been living up to
Thank
it.
you. Thank you.
We're so excited to have you both. As we said, some of the streams for some reason aren't showing up on our StreamYard, but we are going to be checking via our phones and stuff. So we'll be paying attention to however you're streaming, whether you're on Rachel's page or Speaks page or wherever. We'll be checking it out and making sure that we get your comments in. So welcome. We're going to dive right into our questions. Super excited. First question is the same question. Oh, just to let you guys know, we are going to be focused on kindness. So we have just been going through the 3 pillars of Speak all week. On Wednesday, we talked about empowerment, and on Thursday, we talked about action. And today, we're going to be talking about kindness, which is my favorite one because I do not think we as a community focus on the kindness aspect, the warmth and the love and the fun of, being mentally well. That can be fun, you being healthy mentally. And so let's talk about being kind. And I'm going to ask Rachel to share, again, just for those of you who haven't been here all week, share what is Speak.
Awesome. So, SPEAK stands for Suicide Prevention Through Empowerment, Action, and Kindness. Our mission is to reduce the stigma around suicide and mental health care in our community while allowing the partners to speak, be heard, and to live fully.
Sorry, it's my fault. My fault.
Okay. No worries. Our purpose is to combat the rise on suicide in the Black community, eliminate the negative stigma around mental health in our community, amplify access to resources and support for mental health care in this community, and then support and encourage those who are affected by suicide to speak out, to advocate, and to end the silence so that more people can actually live. So that's the speak in the bucket, and the kindness portion is really important. I myself find that to be one of the most important concepts of the organization, because we know that mental health cannot be just a monolithic approach. We actually have to have a whole body approach. So we are talking about your spiritual, your physical, environmental, and emotional wellness, right? We want to talk about self-love, being kind to each other in a different way, starting those conversations and getting rid of shame, blame, and just the guilt that sometimes comes when we don't know. A lot of times it happens to be because we are not knowledgeable about what the person is experiencing. So to open up those conversations, the tools of kindness that we are going to be looking at is, again, self-care, self-love practices, working with faith organizations and different faith houses and churches, meditation, affirmations, yoga, movement exercises, breath work, music therapy, all of the things that I have used and hope to get from others that I know have worked, right? So that's
Amazing.
speak and kindness.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
You're
You speak
welcome.
so eloquently about this. Obviously, you would. This is your baby. So great. And Bridget, if you could just briefly tell us about the work you do and what made you want to get into this work. Let us know how. Tell us more.
Well, I currently serve as the Minister of Engagement at the Weston Collegiate Church on the Upper West Side. And throughout my ministry, I've lived at the intersections of art, social justice, and religion. Those are the ways that I show up in the world. One of the things that really intrigued me about Speak and why I'm really happy to be here tonight is the idea that kindness and empathy are something that Rachel seems to be focusing on, and the idea that you hold space with people, that, like you said, that the trauma and the stigma around it are that you move past that, you move to empathy, you hold space with people, the same way that Brene Brown talks about you get into a hole with someone and you hold that space with them. And I think also the empathy and the importance of this work is also rooted in knowledge, understanding. What are the causes of suicide? Understanding that depression is not something you pray away, that depression and mental illness and all the other factors, the things that happen that take people to that point. You have to have an understanding about, you have to have some knowledge about what's going on with people so you can hold space with them.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to jump around on our little rubric of questions here. Well, something I really want to unpack, I want to start with, is the arts, education, social justice, the work that you do, Reverend Bridget. How can we have a lot of negative, I'd say a lot of negativity and kind of a pejorative attitude towards mental health advocacy, going to therapy, possibly using meds if you need to, mental illness in and of itself. It's just kind of like a subversive attitude towards it in communities of color. How can the arts, education, you spoke of knowledge earlier, the arts, education, social justice, can those things shift attitudes towards mental health? And if they can, how? And I'll let Reverend Bridget answer first.
Well, one of the first things that I would bring to that conversation about how to bring up the idea of mental illness, how to sort of start getting in the hole with somebody who's struggling, is not just empathy, but also sharing personal experience.
Yes.
I have been in therapy for the last 10, 12 years. And one example that I always give people an example of how powerful therapy can be. And the example I always give is I went to my group therapy one night, and I felt just fine. And I was listening to other people share, and I don't even know what was said, but I broke down and burst into tears and to racking sobs. I did not know that was inside.
Mm,
And when I reflected on it later, I was like, what would I have done with that? Where would that have gone if
mm,
I had not had the space? If I had not had someone
Mhm.
help me crack that open, it would have stayed inside, it would have festered.
mm,
Um, and so I always try to begin with personal experience. But the thing that I've also learned too about the arts and creativity, that's just the natural expression of the soul. Um,
mm.
and it's a natural antidote and healing process for trauma. All of us have trauma. We're especially traumatized by the pandemic. We're traumatized by white
Yes.
supremacy. We're
Yeah,
traumatized, especially the last 4 years by the last administration. As
yeah.
extremely, we were terrorized, especially as people of color, right?
Mm,
So we've all got trauma. The idea that you're walking around and you think that that you're operating at a level and there's nothing going on under the surface. We're all in this muck right now, right?
yeah.
So I find that trying to encourage people to express themselves in a variety of ways,
Mhm.
um, through the arts, through writing, through expressing themselves, um, through acting. I teach also at City College. I teach acting, and even with the mass teaching class was still um, a wonderful experience, I believe, for all of us. And it was so necessary as we move through this trauma and try to find towards healing.
Yeah, I love that. I love being a child of performing arts myself.
Mhm.
I definitely see how performing arts is so healing and how it definitely helps you get through stuff that you didn't even know you needed to get
Mhm.
through. You know, my God, yes,
And let me
absolutely.
tell you, I still think about how seeing you dance 100 years ago, I was like, Kathleen is a better dancer than me. Like, I need to get myself together. I remember your energy. I
Yeah.
remember watching you with kids. What 100 years ago, like I said, whatever we were doing, I think it was Freedom School. Maybe.
Freedom School, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Listen, the dancing that you're doing is healing the world, and so it's
Hmm.
so good
Mhm.
to be.
Thank you, Reverend Bridget. I received that.
I
I do.
I'm so pleased
Definitely.
to be sort of in your orbit again.
I appreciate that, and I feel like when you start, I'll put personally, I entered the arts for selfish reasons. I just enjoyed it. You know,
Mhm.
it just made me feel good. Particularly dancing. I never considered myself a dancer. Dancing was purely fun. Like writing and acting, that was like cool, but dancing was purely fun. And when I started doing these dance classes, I was like, I teach a dance class. Why would anyone take a dance class from me? I started realizing you were totally right. There is a healing space in movement and in
Mhm.
dance that you don't even tap into until you're doing it. Not to mention this thing you got to do where, especially if you're in a dance classroom, you got to look at yourself in the mirror the whole time. And
Yes.
there's something about that, watching
Mhm.
your body move, even if you don't really like your body, watching your body move is such a healing, sacred space. And I did not know that shit until I started doing this work, you know, and it's
Mhm.
absolutely therapeutic and life changing. It really is.
Yeah.
Um, Rachel, you
Yes.
same question. You were speaking about how the kindness and all the different arts and singing and therapy and all the stuff that you wanted to incorporate. How do you think we can use arts to kind of shift the stigma
Oh,
around
def-
mental health in our communities?
definitely, I've always been a writer, and that was my one of my saving graces as a younger person. I had to find a way to express myself. I just didn't know that it was healing until I wrote out of necessity,
Mm,
right? And it's amazing because just like Reverend Bridget mentioned, all of the arts are expressive. All of the arts are part of your soul. You're giving of yourself. You're dancing,
mm,
the movement, the way each of us are individually unique. My dance movement may not look like yours, but it's still beautiful, and to
yeah.
embrace that, right? Um, I actually figured out that I love to sing. I
Mm,
didn't know that I even could sing, and it came out of pain,
mm,
right? It came out of missing. At that time, it was my dad so much when he passed away that I couldn't do anything but start singing. And the vibrations, the movement, the it kind of unstuck something in me, right? So I wholeheartedly know that it's not just going to therapy, it's not just taking the meds, it's all of you and that kindness and finding that space. That's why I created Speak, finding that space where we can actually say, you don't have anyone to tell you you're great. Guess what? I know you're great.
Yeah.
I want you to know that you're great.
Yeah.
I want people to understand that in our uniqueness, we are all the way we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Flaws and all. Let's accept that about ourselves. I suffered a long time with shame and blame of, I thought this was my fault. I thought I was never going to be okay. I'm just wound up differently. I was, clingy, all of the words that we use that we don't understand why somebody is exhibiting certain behaviors, dramatic. You're just acting doing too much.
You're doing too much. Oh yeah.
Right. And that wasn't necessarily the case. And then we have to start asking ourselves, why are we so judgmental when it comes to needing someone and needing help?
Yeah.
As opposed to seeing it as someone is hurting. Can I help? As opposed to someone's hurting. Oh my God. Like,
yeah.
Change that conversation.
He's a
Look
mess.
with a different
Yeah.
lens. We
Yeah.
haven't all been traumatized.
Mhm.
We've all, every person on this planet has been traumatized in some type of way. And then we talk about our community. It's a given, but we sometimes don't want to have a label on us and say, something's wrong. Nothing's wrong.
Sure.
The pain is what's wrong. The depression is what's wrong, right? So those are not normal things that we are supposed to live with. I want to open up that conversation at all times and say, there's nothing wrong with you. You're okay today. You need to cry. It's okay. Nothing weak about crying. I was talking about earlier with a friend, are Black men. Where do they find some space to actually express themselves truthfully?
Yeah.
Men in general, but especially Black men. We're viewed as sometimes so harsh in the community and in situations and media and everywhere else that we forget that we are all human beings, right? We all are suffering from something. Not to say we're supposed to go out and take that hurt and put it on other people. I want us to take that hurt, figure out that we're hurting, and do something about it. Right.
I think you guys brought up some really great thoughts here in terms of performing arts and trauma and how I feel like we as a people are very comfortable with performing arts. We're comfortable with theater, film, music, and you listen to some of this music, particularly Black music, right? Hip hop, R&B. You listen to Jasmine Sullivan's latest album. You listen to a rap album, and you hear pain, you hear trauma, you hear I didn't have a father, you hear I'm dealing with all these men because I don't know what the hell is going on with me. Solange's album, oh my God, I tried to drink it away. I tried to, all of these different lyrics.
Right.
And so we're hearing trauma through the arts. But if you, and we're hearing it, we're engaging in it, we understand that pain and that trauma. But you bring up, so maybe we should I don't know, go to a therapist.
Exactly.
How can we, is there a way? I won't say how can we, I say, is there a way we can use our connection to the arts as people? Can we use that to kind of bridge the conversation around mental health? Because we know what it looks like. We know, I mean, you can take music back to further the blues, music, acting, theater, film. We know what trauma looks like. We know what it feels like because of our connection to the arts. So how come we can't talk about it, but we can perform it?
Well, you know what I would say, even before we get there, I know that the church, some churches in particular, have been staunch opponents to healing. I know that I've heard lyrics about pray away depression, or release depression. If it was that easy,
If it was that easy, yes.
I'm sure people would do that. And so I think that unfortunately the church has not always been the best partner
Sure.
in mental health. Um, Expressing negative emotions, being fearful or being afraid or being depressed is very often equated with not having faith or,
Mm.
or giving life to it or giving it energy or bringing it on yourself. There's all kinds of ways that the church has taken mental health and made it something that you don't want to even deal with or that you don't want to seek proper support for. Um, Medication, I mean, mental illness, chemical imbalances, those are things that we have to have. Our empathy needs to be rooted in experience and knowledge. These are
Yes.
things that we know
Mhm.
cause people to feel a certain way that we have remedies for. There is no
Yes.
reason for someone to feel like they can't take a pill in order to feel better about what's happening in their life,
Right.
to deal with the chemical imbalance, to deal with the depression over the loss of a loved one.
Sure.
Even when I had my baby, I had Makai, who was 17 now. I remember right after he was born, the tsunami hit.
Mm.
Remember that big tsunami that hit and it just like wiped out like all of these islands in like I want to say the South Pacific.
I remember that.
I
Yeah.
remember being inundated with images of children's bodies stacked on the ground,
Yep.
women wailing over their dead children, and I was like, there's something wrong, and
Mhm.
I had to go to the doctor, and she was like, "Oh, girl, look here." Here,
Yeah.
you know, and I know that if I hadn't been in the right space, somebody would have been like, "Girl, let's just pray." Not to say that prayer changes things.
Did
Prayer,
you experience shame around that? Around
I did not because I wasn't in a space.
good for
I
you.
wasn't in. I wasn't in a space that um, caused shame.
Great.
Mhm.
I was lucky about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that the church has not always been the best partner. Gospel music sometimes has not always been the best partner for mental health.
When you said songs, I thought 3 or 4 songs hit me in the head right then. I was
Yep.
like, "Ooh, yeah,
There's
she's
one
Yep.
artist, there are a couple
right."
artists in particular who are very
Mhm.
popular, and I've heard them say really negative things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Very, very judgmental, very hurtful sometimes. And
yeah.
um my spiritual I didn't want to jump in, but I know my spirituality was challenged very early on because of the things I was experiencing, and I didn't know how to get answers and help. Instead of, saying you might see your doctor, I was told you might need to pray and
Mm.
you're not praying hard enough, or your faith is lacking. I've never been faithless, but I did leave my church and my community because I felt like I was an outcast.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, it altered my relationship with the spirit, that is, with
Yeah.
God, the universe, myself. And it was really hard to come back and say, am I safe?
Mm.
Is this okay to talk about? Right? And am I going to be looked at as crazy again? But I was blessed to find a space that I was okay in. But I know from my earlier experiences, I had to study other religions just because I thought I would never be okay as a Christian, because I
Mhm.
was seen as weak because I couldn't pray it away. And there is no praying a chemical imbalance away.
Yes. And that's that kindness piece that you're talking about.
Right.
Just being able to sit with someone and have their experience lead the discussion, lead the healing.
Yes.
Um, that seems like that is the hardest thing for people to do.
Yeah.
So.
I love that. If you're
Mhm.
just joining us, we want to thank you for joining us and also let you know that we are doing this live because we are celebrating the launch of Speak Suicide Prevention. And tonight we're talking about kindness. We want you to follow us on all the social medias. Speak Suicide Prevention at Speak Suicide Prevention, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're using the hashtag It's Time to Speak. Also visit our gorgeous new website, speaksuicideprevention.org. You can sign up for our mailing list, get inspiration, support, and resources in your toolbox. It's super cool. And if you know anyone who's going through anything, or if you yourself are going through anything, give us a call and go ahead and check out what's going on there and see the different services and resources we have. There are options, there is help, and we are here. So my next question, social justice and mental health, how do they correlate? How can, I think last night we were talking about how um, taking care of yourself mentally is an act of disruption, is an act of, taking it back for Black people. You just taking care of yourself. That in and of itself is a wonderful thing you can do to smash the patriarchy and the racism, right? But how can we, how do those correlate for people who are like, I'm a warrior, I'm into social justice, Black Lives Matter, all that kind of stuff, but possibly they aren't taking care of themselves? How does mental health and social justice correlate? And I'll turn to you, Reverend Bridget.
When you say social justice, I always go back to the civil rights movement, and I use some of the tools that our ancestors, the people who are leaving us. Sidney Poitier today left us.
Yes.
So sad.
It was yesterday.
He had a magnificent life, but I was still very sad.
But like our icons, the people who paved the way for us are leaving us. But one of the things that I think about when I think about the civil rights movement, the extraordinary stress and pressure that they were under, they always had music. There were always freedom songs that were sung. There were things that people did, even with the signage. I am a man, having it be the same sign and having that sort of be the same sign being marched past. There's an art to that. That's moving art.
Yes.
So I think that social justice and artistic expression are natural allies. We have seen through our ancestors. If you even go back to enslaved Africans who used music and who used art and quilting and food and crocheting and knitting and all the different things that they did as a way to deal with the stresses and as a way often to express themselves, to release the stress and to advocate for themselves. That is my example. So I always feel like art and social justice are natural allies.
It is. I've always thought so too. I know, like, in my mind, when I was I'm in a process of being healthier. A process is a journey, right? But there are times when I had to feel defiant in my health. I had to say, I'm taking this by any means necessary because I need to be healthy. I want to be happy. And that it was a part of social justice, just advocating for myself, just saying, no, this is not okay. This is what I need. This is what I don't want. I want to be happy. I want to be able to communicate with my friends and family. I want to smile. I want to live by any means necessary. That is something I had to learn how to say and say it with meaning and actually embrace that I am here and I deserve to be here. And we deserve to be happy at the same time and live the lives that you were created to live in any way you want to live it. That is, it sounds like when people say by any means necessary, it's not violent. It's courageous.
It's possibility filled.
Yes.
Yeah, it's full
So
of possibility, by any
right,
means necessary.
by any means necessary. And the things that you should give yourself, like I said, those little gifts. I had to give myself singing. I didn't know I liked to sing. I sang with, I may not sound great. I sang but it feels good, right? The things that people may label you with, right? Or just say, or pray it away, or you're just having a moment, you're dramatic, whatever the case may be, turning around and saying, no, I am a human. I hurt right now, and that's all that's happening. Not receiving all of the negativity that can come with not understanding what mental illness is, right? So all of it is an act of social justice for me, because the way I push through, I feel like I have to fight for life.
Mm.
And in that fight, it taught me how to be kind to myself, not to just say, okay, I'm pushing. Every day is not going to be a great day, but it's okay because I'm still here and I have another opportunity to do it again tomorrow if the universe sees fit, right? But I mean, it can be from just saying, you know what, my diet needs to be better. I'm going to take a chance and I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to eat salads. That's social justice for people who don't have what we can talk about, the food deserts that some of us live
Oh
in,
yeah.
the natural resources that we need that are not available in maybe your corner store,
Mm-hmm.
right? An act of social justice is saying, why don't you carry kale? Why don't you carry the things that I know I need in my environment and help other people?
Yeah.
Talking, ask questions. Why don't we have Swiss chart, which I love now, like it's a thing, but saying out loud the things that we actually see that are not okay, giving it a voice, speaking,
Yeah.
and just saying, we're not okay, but how can we change this? And doing it in a way that's not harmful, right? We're not trying to hurt people. We're trying to heal ourselves, and by that, help other people. So you can say, I'm a big communicator, so words are important to me. So that kindness, I lead with kindness and I lead with love, knowing that words can hurt, judgments do hurt, assumptions do hurt. I don't wait for anyone to make an assumption. I start the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the idea behind what both of you guys said and what Reverend Bridget said about the signs saying, I am a man, and this idea of Rachel saying, I want to live by any means necessary. If you look at any social justice movement, it's all about taking back your humanity, right?
Yes.
It's all about you being a human. And I think a big part of you taking back your humanity is saying, I'm not well. I'm not happy. I'm not okay. And I'm allowed to not be okay because I'm a human being. And human beings are not always okay. And I feel like if you're having, those of you who might be having a hard time correlating social justice with mental wellness, I felt like no one for years, hundreds of years, have asked Black people if they were okay. And so for you to simply ask yourself if you're okay, to ask a fellow Black person
Yes.
if they're okay, that in and of itself is an act of social justice, because we are not cattle. We are not animals. We are humans, and we have feelings, and we have ideas, and we have thoughts. And, I am a man, I am a woman, and I deserve mental wellness. I deserve mental health advocacy. I deserve Swiss chard. I deserve, I deserve
basic.
I deserve naps sometimes,
I deserve naps. Thank
I
you.
deserve naps.
Yes,
I deserve a hug.
I deserve love, and you pretending that you don't need those things that you are. We talked a lot about strong Black woman syndrome yesterday. You pretending that you need those things is assisting the oppressor.
Right.
Ooh, I never even thought about that until just now.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, because I am certainly on my strong Black woman shit, even when I don't mean to be. I'm certainly trying to just get things done. That people would just leave me alone, and I could just not sleep for 2 more days, that I will get it done. And it's like,
Right.
Stop helping the patriarchy. Go to bed.
Go to bed. Go to bed.
Yeah. Leave a little good undone every day.
Mm.
Just leave
And-
just a little bit. You don't have to do everything, you know. And I'm still struggling with that as well. You know,
Mm.
Same.
that strong Black woman syndrome. That is something that is really difficult to navigate.
Yes.
Feel like you're letting everybody down.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly. The shame that you feel.
yeah. I sometimes feel like I'm the only person who's worried about me.
Mm.
Like, who's helping me? You know,
Mhm.
Mm.
it's hard.
Mhm.
It's hard. And I have to be conscious and deliberate about naps and self-care
Yes. Yes.
and saying no, and saying this is too much
Yep.
now.
Reverend Bridget, stop telling my life.
And saying to people who I work with, I don't believe I'm being heard now. I don't want to do this right now. I need you to hear that. I need to do less in this moment. I need to do. I can't come into the office today. I need to work from home today. I need a mental health day.
Mhm.
I need to not be on camera today. The
Right.
stress of having my face all the time. I can't imagine being a teenager.
Mm.
I was incredibly self-conscious as a teenager. I would not have been able to be on camera.
Right.
It's something I would not have been able to do.
Right.
And so just even as an adult, it's still difficult, you know, to be seen so deliberately and consistently.
Mm.
You know, when you're in a room full of people, you know, people looking all over, but the idea that everyone's looking
Everyone's focused. Yeah.
that's a lot, you know. So, but yes,
It is a lot.
be deliberate about self-care, and that self-care, like you said, Kathleen, is our own personal sense of social justice.
Yep.
The oppressor does not need any more assistance. They are well funded and well able.
Yes. Yes, and
Right.
a lot of times it's interesting, especially in what Reverend Bridget was talking about, church culture. A lot of times we're killing ourselves for church culture, for the bake
Oh.
sale and the youth group and this and that, and then I got to go to choir rehearsal, then I go to Bible study. It's like the church isn't gonna. I feel like every church, no matter what its size, has like it can be 10 people or 10,000. There's still only like a 10% who like kind of keeps the church running. And if
Mhm.
you're one of those hardcore Black women, because it's generally Black women, you aren't taking care of yourself. You aren't celebrating yourself. You're going too hard.
Yeah.
You're going too hard. And I feel like I'm a preacher's kid. I watched my mom do it. I watched her go too hard. She's not here anymore. Is that a part of it? I don't know. Maybe. It could be. It could be you work yourself to an early grave, but you think because you're doing it for God,
Right.
you can't. There's no pushback. You
Right.
can't argue against God. It's like you're doing it for God. So
Mhm.
keep going.
Yeah.
He's done so much for me. I'm
Right.
so blessed.
Mhm.
Let me keep going.
Yeah.
Those are hard things to fight, y'all.
They are.
Hard.
And I actually had to do something similar. And I was going hard for God, but I wasn't healthy enough to be present for myself. And I kept saying, well, Sunday keeps coming and I need a rest. Sunday keeps coming. What do I do? Sunday keeps coming and I'm overwhelmed. It was hard to do, but I said out loud, I need a minute. I was afraid to say it because I didn't know what was going to happen. And I thought, things were going to fall apart. And I'm like, they're not going to fall apart because it was there before you got here and it's going to
There
still
when you got there.
Yeah.
right. But I was, again, grateful to have leadership at that moment that said, if you're not okay, you can't be okay for us. So get yourself okay. That's rare. That's rare to find that type of support sometimes in a spiritual environment like that, in a faith house. It was a very good experience to have, but it was affirming. It was life affirming, saying, I know you're not okay. I hear you. I see you. Do what you need to do to get okay.
Mhm.
That's an act of kindness, as opposed to an act of trying to guilt me into, well, we need you. Well, you always do X, Y, and Z, and what's going to happen. It could have happened that way, but I'm so blessed that it did not, because I really could not do another thing. I was on that very thin piece of hair, and it was like, oh, I'm flailing, it's gonna pop any minute. And but just I want to make people uncomfortable when they are not being themselves. I want it to be more normal to say, I'm going to take a break. I need a mental health day. I'm going for a walk. I need 10 minutes because I'm escalated right now. And I know this is not my best self. You're not talking to me correctly. Like the things that are, it's different for each person, but we have to be acknowledged that, that hurts. I don't like it. I'm not saying walk around and rant and complain and, emote all the time. But when something is bothersome, say it out loud.
Normalize humanization.
Normalize it.
Just
communicate.
Why can't that just be
talk
a thing? I feel like another thing that we don't talk about a lot is burnout. It happened to me very young because I'm a preacher's kid and I just hauled ass for Jesus all the time. I thought I was doing it for Jesus. I don't even think Jesus would agree with me. I think he'd be like, dude, sit down. But I was going really, really hard. And I feel like people burn out and they don't come back. Right. I have a lot of friends like that. It's like they burned out and they couldn't even bring themselves to come back because the idea of it was exhausting. And that's not really the message we're trying to give about God, I don't think. I mean, I don't know, Reverend Bridget, in your experience, you see a lot of
burnout for ministers is an ongoing, ever-present thing. I mean, and also too, this pandemic, they're calling it like the Great Resignation. Everyone's reevaluating what they're doing, how they're doing it, why they're doing it. I mean, I know for me, when I first entered seminary, I was full-time mom. I was a full-time seminary student. I was working part-time in an office, and I think I was even teaching at City College at the same time. My heart gave out on me. My heart was like, you need to go somewhere and sit down. And I was in the hospital for 5 days in the middle of my first semester of seminary because I was doing too much. That's when I learned my lesson. I think too, the word speak is such a powerful thing. I was thinking about like what I wanted to say for this panel. One of the things that I was taught when I was doing my CPE and my minister training was, if you are talking to someone who, and you're worried that they are maybe considering self-harm, you try to get them to make an agreement with you. You would say, can you agree with me that you won't hurt yourself before we talk again? And getting that verbal agreement, having them speak the words, having them say that they will stay here until they talk to you again is actually really effective. And so I'm so glad that you're doing this. And the idea that stay here, tell me that you're going to stay here, is really a powerful way of trying to engage and put some action to your empathy. When you're talking to someone who you think might be on the fence or might be in that hole and not able to get out. Right. So.
I had to make the same type of agreement after my overdose, and I couldn't. I'm not a mental health care professional, but holding me accountable because I felt I had to say it out loud. That meant I was keeping my word until, of course, I felt like I needed to be here and I didn't have to hold on to that agreement anymore that way. But it's pivotal. It's part of surviving, right? When you say it out loud, it gives it life. The vibrations that come out, the energy that is with it. And when I said it, I cried the first time because it was so hard. I was like, do I want to be here by next week? I don't know. But I told this lady I want to be here and I'm going to be here. So she held that space for me when I couldn't hold it for myself. So speak. Yeah, words have power.
Yes.
That's the whole energy behind speak. Using your voice to live, right? To tell your story, to tell your success, to tell your pains, but you're still here. And if you need someone to companion and to walk with you through that process, we will be that organization. We'll be those people, because I want to make sure people see that they are needed. I see you. If no one else is seeing you, I see you. And I want you to see yourself.
Mhm.
I want to hold up that mirror to people to say, it's okay. Because someone held up that mirror for me. And I would be, remiss if I didn't keep moving forward in the same way. I'm so grateful for the support that I've had. And I'm like, not everyone has these experiences, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone has access. Not everyone knows that they can tell someone, I'm not going to hurt myself until I talk to you again, and not take it as a joke, right?
Yeah.
That's a big thing. And I guess that's why speak has to be.
Yeah. That's why
It's
Speak has to be here. Absolutely. If you're just joining us, we are celebrating the launch of Speak Suicide Initiative, which is an amazing endeavor of the brainchild and vision of Miss Rachel Chenoa. We're asking you to please go ahead and check out speaksuicideprevention.org. Sign up for our mailing list, get tips and all kinds of cool stuff in your inbox, as well as follow us on all the socials at Speak Suicide Prevention. Please do not forget to use our hashtag, It's Time to Speak. We are getting close to the wire. There's one question that I really want to ask right now, and then I'll ask my last question. But the question I want to ask right now is, you guys brought up some good stuff about someone on the fence of whether or not they want to be here. I have heard of this, and this has actually happened to me, where someone begged me, made me promise not to tell about their suicide ideation.
Mhm.
And I believe that happens a lot. And I feel like it's one of two things: either we as a community aren't speaking about it at all, or we tell someone and then we don't tell the other person, and then it's like, if it actually happens, it's like, I should have said something.
Right.
What would be your response to someone who's like, I know someone who's having suicide ideation, they asked me not to tell? What would you say? I would say Rachel as an advocate and Reverend Bridget as a pastor, what would what would be your pushback on that?
It's a very tricky situation at times, because you do want that person to find comfort and support in you. But that is a medical emergency, as far as I'm concerned, right? I am not going to run and tell the person's partner or, friends or whatever, but I would have to say to that individual, we have to have an agreement. You have to get help. And if they were not capable, I probably would get the help for them. I know, or I would introduce a space where they were able to get help. Guess what? We're going to talk to X, Y, and Z because you're not doing well. My pushback is that's not okay. I know you feel like that.
Silence. Don't keep the secret. Yeah.
Don't keep the secret. I've experienced people who have died as a result of suicide since my attempt. And it's been, when you say, well, I didn't know, or there were no symptoms, or we didn't know what was going on, sometimes there are symptoms and you just don't see it, or we just don't realize what we're looking at, right? So just as my personal experience, the way I am, I wouldn't be able to keep that secret. But I wouldn't do it in a way that was harmful either. Not, making it so dramatic where they feel unsafe. Everyone is different. It depends on that person. It depends on the resources that you have available, and that relationship you actually have with that individual as well. To be able to talk to them, say, look, this is not okay. I know you're hurting. I know you don't want me to tell anyone, but we have to do something. If I can't tell someone, then we have to agree to do something right now together. What are we going to do?
I like that. Reverend
That's
Bridget?
That's a beautiful answer. I'm not a trained mental health facilitator or social worker,
right.
but when I am doing pastoral care, I am charged with holding confidences. But that is something that I would have to say, I cannot hold this by myself.
Right.
This is not something I can hold alone. I appreciate you trusting me with this, but this is not something that I can hold. You and I cannot just hold this together. We have to have someone else help us with this. And yeah, I agree with you, Rachel. That is a medical emergency.
Yeah. And I know we just had a comment from Janie that says an individual who told you what's going on trusted you, but is crying out. However, he or she is unsure how to seek help. 9 times out of 10, it's usually what it is.
Yeah.
If you are able to articulate that you don't want to be here, that you're exhausted, you just don't see any other way, then you might also be able to articulate, I need help. I'm just not using those actual words.
Sure.
That's what the conversation is. I've been thinking about this, and the fact that you said it to somebody else, you needed someone to hear what was going on, knowing somewhere internally, subconsciously, that person who loves you or who cares for you is not going to be okay with what you're saying and will hopefully take some action. So I do see it as a way of, I wouldn't say crying out, but a way of advocating for yourself even, right? You have to say, and it takes a moment of bravery, courage. I wasn't that courageous at all. I made a plan, took 4 hours to execute the plan, didn't call anyone, didn't ask for help. I knew as soon as I called someone, they probably weren't going to run over here and stop the whole process. So in my thinking, it was so terminal at that moment that it was kind of like, I know I can't tell anyone because they're going to stop me. So if I really wanted to leave, I just exited stage left quietly, right? Which is sometimes much worse because it leaves people feeling like, why didn't we know? Why didn't we see anything? Why couldn't we do anything? And that just, it's just a losing situation all around, a hurting situation all around. So I'm always going to say, break the silence. Tell someone, find a safe space. If you don't think you have a safe space, speak as a safe space. Even if, it doesn't matter who you are, really. There's no judgment in mental illness as far as I'm concerned, in mental health care. There should not be. I just can't function that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. With our 5 minutes, I always like to get recommendations from our illustrious panel, books, podcasts, YouTubers you follow, Instagram accounts you follow, anything that you feel can help our community. If you would love to share those right now, I'd love to get those.
I was thinking about that question, and I'm a big fiction and science fiction fantasy nerd. And honestly, the books that I would recommend are books by Octavia Butler. I think it's really important for Black women to see themselves in the future, to see themselves in the center of action and fantasy and science fiction.
Yeah.
So Octavia Butler's work has been transformative for me. Very specifically, Wild Seed, which is about a Black woman.
You said Wild Seed?
Wild Seed. She can transform herself into anything. So she has agency in this story and with the other characters especially the other predominant, the other main character who's male. So I would say Octavia Butler. I think also has been useful for me is um, Dr. Joy DeGroy, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome.
Ooh.
That book helped me sort of recognize some of the things that you see sort of in our communities are sort of that acting out. People express trauma, ask for help in a variety of different ways.
Right.
People self-medicate to try to ease the trauma. And some of what we see in poor communities or communities of color, some of that is the trauma of slavery. And so
Right.
Dr. Joy DeGroy has made connections between the trauma of slavery and how that shows up in modern African-American Black society.
Mm.
So that was helpful for me. So those are the two um, books that I would recommend. Wild Seed.
Which that thing you just said, the connection between slavery and where we are now, that brings back to you taking your mental health as an act of social justice.
Yes.
Taking it back and being healthy means, for lack of a better word, fuck the patriarchy, fuck racism, fuck white America. I'm gonna get well. And also the power of Black people well. Like, if we were all well,
Could you imagine?
the
Could
power.
you even imagine the wonderful things that can come out of a group of magnificent people already? But now we are magnificent and healthy. We're magnificent and dreaming. We're
The things that
magnificent
we
and
could come
moving
up with,
forward.
things we could build, the dreams that we could release. Oh yeah.
I believe in our people. That's why
Post-traumatic slave syndrome. I'm reading that.
Yeah.
So,
I totally believe in this. So yes. I only have one book that I just recently purchased that was recommended to me called My Grandmother's Hands. And it talks about trauma in our community and how we express it, how it's affected us, right? So I think that's a good book. Of course, I mentioned yesterday, The Body Keeps the Score, because I'm really trying to be in tune with my physical self. That's part of my journey, as far as sometimes we feel disconnected from our bodies and understanding what's happening in those moments, right? Is it anxiety? Is it excitement? Am I anxious? What's going on with me? I know that has been really helpful for me in just this journey of understanding mental health care for just myself, as a human experiencing challenges. So
I love that. And I read The Body Keeps Score. It's brilliant and fascinating. You're like, whoa, it's
it
like,
really is. That's why it's just like, wow.
yeah,
Who knew?
yeah. It's all connected. Your physio. I feel like you're more likely to go to the doctor for you're sick or you're diabetic or something like that. When you say you're having what Rachel said, like an actual medical health crisis that is happening in your brain is a part of your body.
Yes.
It's not an entity over here. And if there's something wrong with your brain, there's something going on with your body. I don't know why we have that disconnect.
Yeah, there's a disconnect there, definitely. I've been grateful to have, medical providers who are now talking about that mind-body connection. Why does my stomach hurt so bad when I'm a little stressed out? You might need to breathe. You might need to meditate. You might need to have a little waterfall thing in your house. You might need a singing bowl. There are so many different ways that we can try to give ourselves those little gifts of kindness. So
I love that. I've been checking, guys, and you guys are making wonderful comments, but I haven't seen anyone ask a question. So I've been checking and checking, but mostly we're getting a lot of comments, not a lot of questions, which is totally fine with me. We're going to wrap because it is 8:00 before we go. Reverend Bridget and Rachel, if you guys could give us a word to kind of encapsulate our conversation that you would like to share with people. It can be a statement too. It can even be a sound effect, whatever you want.
Go ahead, Reverend Bridget, you go.
No, you go. You go. I have to think. You go.
You know, I'm going to be very predictable right now. I'm just going to say speak.
Yes.
And all that it means, and all the accumulation of these past 3 days, and what we are going to do in a community, the reasons for speak, the mission behind speak, the tools that we are going to share and to educate and empower our people. That's what
And
we
the
do.
act of speaking.
The act
Yeah.
of speaking. Let's start the conversation somewhere.
I love it.
It costs you nothing to be kind.
Mm.
So be kind and hold space.
Mhm.
I love that.
Awesome.
Yes, very, very good. I don't have a word. I'm gonna go with woo. I'm gonna go with it has been such a pleasure to watch this entire project just transform and manifest and bloom. And even though it took a lot to get to this moment, whoa, do we have a lot of work to do
Yes,
after
we do.
this week is over.
And I'm excited about the work part now.
Yeah.
This part was like, oh my God, it's happening. What to do? I would like to do the work.
Yeah,
I want to meet these people, come be speakers, community advocates. Let's come together. Let's do this work because it's really necessary. It's really important.
Yeah, and
It's time for us to be happy and healthy and live.
Yes, and live. And that us surviving and thriving, that is an act of social justice.
Yes.
Let's absolutely do it. Let's do it. Thank you so much, Reverend Bridget, Rachel, for this lovely, lovely time. Again, I'm gonna plug it one more time. Please speaksuicideprevention.org. Check out our site, sign up for our mailing list. Follow us on all the socials at Speak Suicide Prevention. And let's keep going, keep the conversation going. Let's keep surviving, guys. Thank you so much for all of you who tuned in, who commented and left questions. I see Janie saying, thank you for this space. Thank you for all of you. AQ Blackwood, thank you so much. Everyone who's tuned in, left comments. We love you all so much. And keep checking us out. We're going to keep going. And our next online event, sign up for a mailing list, and then you'll know when it is.
Exactly.
Have a wonderful night. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, everyone out there on the internet. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. Thank you
so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.